Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the June 28th, 2022 edition of Bull Sessions. My name is Mark Robertson. I'm joined here by Ken Kavula, and I have spent the last 17 of the last 40 hours with Ken in a car, so get ready for some horror stories.
No horror stories. I enjoyed it completely. I'm not sure that my body enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it mentally, Mark.
Well,
Okay.
I came home to the Iron Butt Award, so we definitely spent some time. Now, Kim is with us too, but she may have to be in and out. You still around right now, Kim?
I am right now, yeah. And I want to congratulate the two of you for you probably both got that Iron Butt Award. That amount of driving.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to Jennifer out there, and Jennifer, my wife and I are going to be up in Traverse City during the Cherry Festival just in a couple of days. So it certainly is something that I'm looking forward to break the better investing habit for just a couple of days and do something completely different.
Sounds fantastic. You'll have to stop in on Herb and his court, the queen and her court. Good stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get underway. Ken and I did just return from Dallas, 17-hour drive, wonderful 17-hour drive. Ken knows more now about Champaign, and we stopped at this place, Buc-ees, Champaign, Illinois. Champaign, not to drink champagne. We were not drinking and driving. Champaign, the vicinity of Champaign, Illinois. But again, I thought what we would do today is just kind of hit just a couple of those highlights. We may come back to more about it. We did discover the phenomenon of Buc-ees on this trip, and I got to say we'll show a couple of pictures and wow, I've never seen such a thing. So we'll cover that, and again, we'll just share some thoughts about the conference in general. I just talked for a few minutes about Ralph Accompoura. I won't talk too much more about him other than to point out that I did give a speech on Saturday night, kind of inspired by that image on the left, talking about the legions and legends that have formed the last 70 years with this organization. And Ralph Accompoura is, I think, a significant part of that with his speech made at the 50th convention back in 2001, literally just weeks after 9/11, where he advised the audience that, and you guys have heard about this here on Bull Sessions, and I have written about it in Better Investing magazine, but again, Accompoura basically stood there and said, you guys are special. Speaking to a Better Investing audience, he said, and the reason I know you're special is because you're stock pickers, which means that you might sidestep the disaster that's about to hit index investors. And he was talking about the S&P 500. And you go back and look at what happened to the S&P 500 index between 2001 and 2012, I got to give Ralph a standing ovation for that warning. It made a significant impact on my investing and my experience. So any thoughts on that, sir?
Well, I enjoyed Ralph immensely. I also spoke to him for a good 15, 20 minutes or so, and we just talked about a general life in particular, and he just made the comment about how much he was enjoying himself being in rooms that were full of people that had the same passion he did. That sticks with me in my head about what he said that night. To be honest, it was a hospitality room, and we were both speaking to whoever walked up to us and wanted to talk to us. So it was not a one-on-one conversation by any means.
Well, I had the luxury, perhaps even mistake, considering I had an early class the next morning, but we ended up talking for over an hour, and it was just kind of fascinating. I brought up people like Mary Farrell. Some of you that are a long time in the community remember Mary. Obviously, Abby Joseph Cohen. We talked about Sam Stovall, not about Sam Stovall, about Sam Stovall's dad, and people like Marty Zweig, and pretty neat. And of course, Louis Rukeyser. I've got a whole folder full of Luke Rukeyser stories now, so look out.
So let's get working on our own slide deck here and see what we can plant in people's minds for this Tuesday afternoon. Okay.
Okay. Right. Of course, you guys know the disclaimer. We are going to talk about real companies in real time. Everything we do here, it means that no investment recommendation is intended. This is all about the demonstration, illustration of a method, methodology in force for over 70 years as part of the modern investment club movement. We have some opinions about aspects of that. Please know that they are our opinions. And please do your own homework before making a decision. If we own something, we try to remember to mention that. We do have our monthly roundtable tonight. Ken, our scheduling is just awful. I mean, 17 hours in the car, and then we got to come home and do this. We love doing these. Don't take that the wrong way. But we do have the June roundtable tonight. It will be kind of a repeat of what we did in Dallas, although there will be some minor adjustments and a couple major adjustments.
And we're going to actually let Mark present a stock tonight, okay?
Ken,
that's a teaser for you hearing the story this evening, okay? It's not time to tell it now, Mark. Tell it this evening, okay?
Ken, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I
beat you to it. I beat you to it, okay?
I think you can assume that I will be bringing it up tonight. So.
Well, I knew you would, so I beat you to it and teased it for you, all right?
Okay. The Rodney Dangerfield of this group, without a doubt. All right. Our email addresses are there if you have any follow-up, if you'd like copies of the slides, or if you have suggestions for future topics. Mark R. at manifestinvesting.com, Kavula1 at comcast.net. I did gloss over the nkavula1 at comcast.net address. That is Natalie's email address, and if you'd like to be added to the monthly reminder about those monthly webcasts, again, they're free, just like this. And you can share those links with anyone that you care about, and you care about how well they do as an investor. So with that, let's go ahead and get underway. Anything else, Ken?
It'd be interesting for you to know, Mark, that she's gotten over 40 requests coming directly from convention because that's the last time we hyped it. So she's gotten over 40 requests to be added to our guest list. So you add those to the paper ones that I brought home, and we've added another 65, 70 names to our guest list just in the last couple days.
And that's good because you guys are a source of ideas for us, and we thank you for that. All right, let's get underway. We are approaching the end of June when that current active green bar on the far right will lock in, and the next one will start. And I do want to point out that Value Line has increased their Value Line median appreciation projection this past week, and we are now looking at 15.8, nearly 16%, which places it as the second or third highest set of return forecasts since basically that nightmare back in 2008, 2009. Are you feeling this, Ken? Are you feeling it?
Well, we did look at a really nice high return forecast there in 2011 too, and so we're it's not historic, but it certainly is something that you want to take a real serious look at. And again, as I've been saying all the way through convention, this latest range of what the market is doing, even though the market's down today and started up really, really positive and has moved quite a ways negative, even though that's happening today, I still think that this feels more like we're near the end of the process rather than the beginning of the process.
Very cool. All right, let's go ahead and press on. Quick check-in on the groundhog. Well, the guy we were just talking about up in Traverse City, Herb, has snuck back ahead of Sean. So that appears to be a horse race in progress. But I think both of them had best not rest on their laurels because Susan Malcolm is making a charge. And there's a number of other people just lurking and waiting for a good surge in one of their groundhog selections. The North Texas...
And
go ahead.
One of our knights is charging up to become positive to the Wilshire 5000. Cy is only a couple $100 off of the benchmark now, and He's on a roll. He's moved from somewhere down around 70th up to 29th now in about a month. So that's a really nice thing to see. I appreciate that. And I want to point out that I think I'm probably the only better investing chapter in the country that has 2 directors in the top 40. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
That's really good. So
And
Paul Witt down at 31 is also a director, along with Herb Lemkel up at number 2.
and you've got the B.I. Baker Model Club down there at 42 also.
So we're
All right.
feeling real good about our stock pickers right now.
So not only is Susan Malcolm making a charge, but so is Kathy Wood. She is up to 164th. So she's actually made a dramatic move up, and I'm hoping to benefit from that because I need to make my charge also.
All right.
Got a lot of room for improvement. All right, we're going to talk best small companies for a little minute, but I do want to share with the audience that I have discovered the answer to all of our challenges. And that is the Grumpy Rabbit restaurant in Lone Oak, Arkansas, where their logo happens to be a red rabbit who happens to be grumpy. But delicious food, great place, looked like a nice town. A few miles, I believe, east of Texarkana. And
I'm willing to change email addresses with anybody that wants to swap with me so that you can get all the emails of the pictures of the grumpy rabbit as they come through, okay? It seems to log into my email account on a regular basis here, and I'm inundated with the grumpy guy, so...
Old Grumpy is the new happy, Ken, and we're just trying to improve your outlook. And
okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, so with that, let's talk about the best small companies list. We actually are seeing fairly decent improvement here lately, even though you see a lot of red on there. Notice that the relative returns on the upper far right actually are growing in strength. We are maintaining our position for the blue active portfolio versus the green, which is the Wilshire 5000. And the traditional buy and hold from Halloween to Halloween is actually not doing too badly here recently, considering all that's going on. And again, our weekly reminder, I hope that this doesn't remain true for too much longer. There has to be a lot of opportunity in the small company growth stocks because they are deep into a bearish moment. And there just has to be some fantastic opportunity there. We encourage the audience to shop there. For example, Ken's selection of InMode to replace some stocks in the portfolio that you see here has done quite well since selection, and that is greatly encouraging. But we have sold the ones that are highlighted in yellow in the active portfolio. We basically have set those aside, and we added another one to the pile this week. We did not expect to do this. In fact, I do not expect a bunch more transactions, knocking on wood, between now and Halloween, but we added Axos Financial to the timeout pile. I still think it's a great idea long term, so long as they survive their current turbulence, but they have an item which is probably explaining a mystery. Do you want to talk mystery, Ken?
Well, this company has a predecessor. It has some legacy to it. It was a company that was kind of a favorite of an awful lot of different communities, ours included, back before the housing problem in 2008. And Axos was one of the first banks, and it wasn't called Axos at that point, but it was one of the first banks that was doing subprime lending, and they got in some trouble for it. And actually, I don't know if the bank went away or just went completely unreliable or what, but wasn't heard of again until a couple of years ago when it reemerged as Axos Financial. It's now getting some terrible press, and people in big name periodicals are using words like dodgy to describe what's going on with Axos right now. I don't think that this article has to be false, or I don't think this article has to be true to really impact what's going on with the stock price of that bank. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I put my vote down for giving it a timeout. When you get publicity like this particular headline from Rolling Stone, and then you back it up with this kind of publicity from even mainline periodicals like Barron's and the Wall Street Journal, I think you're going to have some issues, whether it's ultimately ends up really having anything illegal being done or not. I think it really hurts the stock price short term. And now to October, in my mind, is about as short a term as I can go and still maintain my sense of reality. So I'm all in favor for the timeout, even though I still own this stock personally and am not going to run for the hills at the moment with it.
Yeah, completely understood. Don't have to take either side of the partisan divide on this one. Just have to, or for that matter, the factual accuracy of the article. This is not, Rolling Stone is not the only place that this is appearing, and I do think it's been kind of an anchor, in the water around the neck of this company for the last. That's kind of a grim image, but for the last few weeks, while other banks have been gaining and making headway, it has not. And I'm with Ken. I think it could definitely languish. And long term, probably different story, especially if all this comes to pass. But again, you don't have to take a side. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. Same thing as always. A lot of times we forget that humans are basically the stock market. It still is an auction, and impact is felt.
And I want it to be ultimately clear, Mark, that I'll be reevaluating my position with the company every 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not going to let this one sit aside and look at it again 6 months from now. I'm going to kind of watch this pretty carefully, and if it presents an opportunity to move upward and that I feel is a positive opportunity, maybe I add to it, and there's always the possibility that I bail from it as well.
Okay, so back to the portfolio, and we have to have our moment. I'd kind of like to put the proceeds into Boston Beer, but we really don't have a mechanism for doing that. But I do want to have everybody experience a opening of a can of Truly.
Oh, we're doing sound effects now. Okay.
And it is the middle of the afternoon, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere. But even better than that, as I encourage the audiences in Dallas, especially those of us who are shareholders, I am a shareholder of Boston Beer. The inventory problem is the big issue, so go out and buy some. And so if the stock price is really wrecking you come home and you actually consume it. I actually don't care for Truly so much. I probably shouldn't admit that over the air, but I'm going to buy some and pour it down the drain, because pouring it down the drain helps to solve the inventory issue, which means that the stock price could go up.
And as a non-stockholder, Mark, I'm just going to suggest to our audience that might be a very inefficient way of moving the stock price for this particular company. Okay.
Well, it all depends on whether or not you consume it or pour it down the drain. All right. One other tidbit, because some of you have asked about our decision to walk away from the mortgage finance company Ascent, and that environment, which is the reason that we took a time out there, kind of the same story, not a similar story to the Axos, in that a wide market environment condition is affecting them, not necessarily themselves. And this story is not getting better here over the last few weeks. And again, we see the mortgage finance industry kind of under some pressure for a few months. So that's basically what this just reinforces. All right, we'll keep pressing on here. I do have a company I'd like to toss on the pile for consideration. Ken, you can veto this with one of your dreaded red cards. It's kind of an interesting company, very early stage.
And where's it based, Mark?
I don't know where it's based. Where's it based, Ken?
All you have to do is say not China, and if that's true, then it's made it past the first hurdle, okay?
Okay. Well, it's based in Ohio. You knew that when you asked the question.
Yes, I did. Okay, so it's not a Chinese company, so that's good. So let's keep going then.
Okay, so Ohio, I knew that would warm you up a bit. So this is a company that's been around for several years. I mean, I think it dates back to as far back as the 1970s, but they have some innovative solutions for packaging and shipping, and a growth rate, upper single digits, maybe low double digits, and a little bit of a bumpy ride. But what I want to draw everybody's attention to is the recent history with respect to operating margin and the expectations for that. This is a pretty decent situation here for a company that really doesn't have much to speak of in way of earnings. And the real kicker here is that it has a relative strength index under 30. It's trading at 30% of what Morningstar thinks the fair value is, and it's within 3% of its 52-week low. All of these things are pretty attractive, along with this return on value, which matches up pretty well with everything. So, I mean, it does have some appeal. Any question on that, Ken? Or is that?
Well, I will. I'm not going to throw a yellow card or a red card, Mark, but I will say that I will say that the sales line is not particularly exciting to me, and knowing that everything that we measure eventually goes back to the way companies sell something, I'm not getting real excited by a potential sales growth rate in the 10 to 12% range. I noticed that the historical rate's a little bit better than 8%, but if the margins continue to accelerate, and if we can move PE ratios, keep them where they are in the low to mid 20s, then I think the company has a chance to move into that explosive growth stage that we like to talk about. And if that's true, then it might turn out to be really quite a nifty pick. It definitely fits the small company category. So this isn't real money, and this isn't causing me to lose any of my children or grandchildren. So let's give it a try and see what happens.
Yeah. And the other thing I have to confess is I was looking at company after company, and I was running into these that were doing this. Coming down here for the end of 2002 and back up, and that's a fairly common thing that you see these days. And to actually find one, even though it's not a really sexy growth rate, at least it's north or up, and that actually ends up being relatively interesting in this realm. So the other thing to look at here is the stock price over the last 6 months. It has been in a kind of a free fall, as you can see there. It has bottomed a little bit. I don't know if it's put in a final bottom. Nobody knows that. But it does seem to be recovering a little bit down on the lower right. And the relative strength index has been sub 30. And a lot of times when you look back historically over these types of companies, you'll see those I don't know if they're these maroon fields appearing a couple of times. It's kind of like a 2-step or 3-step. And then when they come out of it after 2 or 3 times and they break through, it can be kind of off to the races in recovery. So, I mean, we have that as a potential. Certainly not saying we expect that to happen, but we allow for the fact that it could happen.
Yeah, so far that price graph's a pretty good representation of an escalator going down, isn't it?
Well, we
even have the steps we can stand on. So,
well, if we were standing outside Ralph Accompoura's barn, he'd probably hit us with a 2x4.
Yeah.
All right.
But again, it's an interesting concept, and this was the slide, Mark, that took me away from the numbers and took me into a place. A lot of the power of a list like the best small companies, whether it's 20 companies big or 100 companies big, is not so much what their immediate return is, but what is their potential going forward. You'd like to find that small company that's going to hit explosive growth and get off that small company list real quickly and move to a great mid-cap list and then a great large cap list, or a large company list. I said cap. So it's this story on this screen right here, and I hope you stay on it for a couple of moments so that folks can read parts of it. It does seem to have a very wide swath of places that it can turn to for improvement in sales. It's a real varied kind of a portfolio that it holds as far as the people that it sells to and the kind of things that it sells.
Yeah, and I think the real risk is the international economies and the stuff they talk about having a lot of business outside of the United States. And if those continue to be in the doldrums, that's obviously going to hurt things. I do like this set of customers that's listed down here. I'm not going to say what's not to like, but I will say, IKEA is pretty formidable. And of course, Amazon down there. And I used to work for Eaton, so I have to say good things about them. They were really smart to hire me. Good stuff.
Well, I don't say good things about China very often, but the point was made emphatically on one of my programs this morning that President Xi has said they're going to meet all of their financial goals this year. And the point was made that when President Xi says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whether or not it actually happens is another debate, but the very fact that they can put the paper into the world's publicity system as it's happening, it's going to happen, and then it is happening, I think will be enough to maybe provide a nice layer of confidence underneath what a lot of the markets are experiencing right now. I think China's a big part of the market's unease with supply chains and with the actual materials themselves, with all the ships sitting outside the ports trying to get in, with the total growth of the world economy in general. So if China begins to function again, and if we continue to function in our country, our economy is still, from my point of view at least, pretty strong. Look at the labor rates, for example. If we continue to function and China begins to function again, then we have a great shot at moving past whatever slow spot we're in, moving back to some good growth again.
All right, so we'll leave it here. Ranpak is the company. The ticker symbol is PAC, P-A-C-K. Take a closer look. Maybe if it kind of curdles your blood at this point in time, put it on a watch list and see what it looks like. We'll put it on a watch list known as the best small company portfolio between now and this Halloween, and we'll see how it does. All right, here's your Dallas update. This is the picture from what would have been Thursday night and the stock panel selection, and nice shot of the moderator as he's picking on the panel. What I want to point out is that
or of the moderator as he's being picked on by the panel. We don't know exactly what instant the shot was being taken.
You were vulnerable. You were, and we'll get to that. You made yourself vulnerable, but those are real. Those are not mannequins. Those are real people with real eyeballs and real smiles, and that's really good.
Yeah, about 300 of them sitting in one room there listening to all of the pearls of wisdom we had to spread among the folks.
Good stuff. So we thought we'd share at least that Thursday night highlight. I put this slide together. Ken, would you like to introduce the panel from left to right?
Sure. Our panel was made up of our good friend from Pittsburgh, Pat Donnelly. That's Pat in the first picture. Also in the third picture, we'll get to him again real quickly. That's Pat's great wife, Sue. And Sue is a force to be reckoned with. So if Pat provides the wicked wit and the underlying intellect to the group, Sue provides the steel that you need to make it all work together. And together they're a formidable couple. Sue wasn't at convention this year, and I really regretted not seeing her, but sitting down and sharing a couple of drinks with Pat was always a high point of any convention. The next guy is Cy Lynch, one of the Knights of the Round Table, been with us since we began. Cy is the current chairman of the NAIC Board of Directors, so he's a real high honcho in the organization, but he's just as great a guy as he's always been. And we appreciated him sitting on the panel and giving us his picks. His picks are always something that you want to watch very carefully. And if you're reading this list as I'm jabbering away, you'll notice that right now, one of his picks is topping the list. Third person on the panel was Susie Artsberger, and Susie is running all of the IT for Better Investing. That's Pat behind her, and that's a picture a couple of years.
I think that's Susie's husband.
Is that Bill?
It is. It's Bill.
Boy, I thought it was Pat. That's what I'm selling the audience here. Okay, well, that's Bill Artsberger then. But this is from a couple of conventions prior to where we were giving out all kinds of silly awards for all kinds of things. And Susie won an MVP award for something, but she certainly is an MVP for Better Investing, I'll tell you. And there's your buddies at the other side right there. What are we in, hazmat suits this time, Mark?
Well, yeah, because, from the podium, Ken described the situation as he made his nomination or selection of SCP Pool. I think it's now just Pool Company. The ticker symbol is Pool. But he mentioned a slightly run down and deteriorating pool in his own backyard.
No, 1 house ago, Mark. 1 house ago.
This was 1 house ago?
Yes, That's why I left that house, because of that pool. All right.
Well, he mentioned that it maybe had some green stuff, and then he made some comment about maybe we would like to see a picture, and I basically said no. And it was just kind of a fun moment. That slide actually happens to be from one of our Breaking Bad knockoffs on Time to Cook a little while back, but I thought it definitely fit this pool cleaning situation. And when you go to send your pictures to that AMD CEO who you fall in love with, maybe you send this one. Maybe you send this one, because the other one you were talking about from the podium, I'm not sure. I'm sure Pat Donnelly doesn't want to see it.
I'm having a chance to examine this picture, and Sean Mace is right, Mark. You just do a really lousy job with Photoshop, okay? It's just not very adept. I bet you I can tell immediately that those are not our real suits and those are not our real goggles. Okay?
Well, you don't want to rile Sean, because he will not only fix that, he'll probably animate it. So
right. Well, I don't want to rile Sean. I'm agreeing with him. You don't do a very good job on photoshopping. Okay.
Psst, that's somewhat intentional. Okay. Well, here's the list of stocks that the panelists selected. I think it's a good set of stocks with some decent background. Take a look at the list. What's your favorite on the list, Ken? Vote for mine.
I still think that my favorite on the entire list is AMD. Okay. And I just asking you to be patient. And I think if you're patient enough, AMD is going to give you extremely good rewards. I really think so.
It's a love affair. All right.
Yep.
And I did mention to the audience in Dallas that one of the reasons that I picked Generac is when I was working on this, on my way to Dallas, we lost power in the South Bend area for several hours. So I feel that was a sign. And I feel that God has a sense of humor, and he's placed me in last place already here after a couple of days. But Texas Roadhouse is a decent one there. MKS Instruments comes out at the top of many of our screens. It was used in some of the teaching sessions. Good stuff. I will point out to the audience that Fresenius is kind of a bumpy situation. You want to take a look at that and focus on the long-term expectations going forward. They just did again, that's from the kidney patient area, and a lot of stuff going on in that area that's quite promising, including our Ardelyx obsession. But it really is an invitation to explore medical devices and that type of stuff, diagnostic equipment. I think there are some very interesting opportunities in that realm, and that's really the reason I brought it up.
And we should explain on Susie's behalf that if you think Roper is a company that makes toasters and electric can openers, you really want to go and take a look at the new Roper. Roper has completely changed its business model. And Susie, who's in the engineering / IT area, she's an engineer by trade and an IT person by occupation. she's really high on Roper's new definition and new recreation of itself. Roper is a venerable company. That's a polite way of saying it's been around for a long, long time. And if you remember Roper as being the brand name on a lot of small household appliances, you're correct, but that's no longer what the company is.
All right, so there's some selections. We'll obviously track them much as we do our successful investing conference panel selections, and we'll have some fun with them. All right, just a quick note. I wanted to talk a little bit just for a moment about 1998 and how, again, those dangerous words this time might be different. Back in 1998, that was another time when Russia defaulted, as they have done here in the last few days. And I think this time it perhaps could be different, for the simple reason that it's not a surprise and nobody seems to care. Here's a look at 1998, and this is actually one of the more vicious and terrifying moments for people that were actually involved in the capital markets back in that time frame. It's such a distant memory for many of us, but it was a rough moment. That little V that you see in the middle of the chart, you had not only Russia defaulting, but you had problems with currency in Mexico and Thailand, I believe perhaps even Singapore. And we also had that hedge fund, long-term capital management, LTCM, had to be rescued. Don't get me started on that right now, but they had to be rescued. And it was another really nasty moment. I don't think this one's quite the same. It's a similar type of occurrence, especially if we get any copycat behavior. But I don't see the same panic from Wall Street. They're too busy panicking about other stuff, perhaps, Ken.
Well, I've heard a fact being bandied around, Mark, that Russia's impact on the capital markets today are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 times smaller than they were at the time that they really caused or helped cause the 98 downturn. So that they've become a real minor player in the world capital markets, which means they're not doing a lot of lending to people, and people aren't doing a lot of lending to them outside of their own country. So maybe it's just going to be a curiosity as we move forward.
Yeah, and the other just fact, and you don't have to take sides on this, it's simply a fact, is if oil and gas prices are increasing, Russia gets healthy very quickly. And that's just something that factors into the bigger picture. So for what it's worth, again, you don't have to take sides. You don't have to hate me.
Provided they can sell it to somebody.
True.
Yeah. And right now they can.
So with that, we do have another session tonight. So we're going to basically do a little bit shorter session here today. The reminder is that we will archive these sessions and all of our sessions, whether they're roundtables, bull sessions, or educational special editions, on YouTube. And all you have to do is search for Manifest Investing. You'll find a page that looks like this. If you can't find it, send me a note. I'd be happy to send you another note along with more pictures of Ken in the swimming pool. And just hit the subscribe button and try to see what you receive. And so I think we can close with this picture. Yeah, there's an ad for tonight, but Ken, I think we can spend just a moment talking about a phenomenon. And this is Buc-ees. And this happens to be a picture of the one near Texarkana, I think. And Ken and I on our way home, we stopped in there. There's like 100 gas pumps. But the thing I want to observe is that unlike the Midwest, people gas up their vehicle and then they go in and they go shopping or go in to have something to eat, and they just leave their car at the pump. It's a fascinating thing. Ken and I actually drove around for like 3 minutes trying to find an open gas pump.
Trying to find an open pump, right. Mark was really high on Buc-ees. I had never heard of it before. I had never seen one before. The part of the country that we traveled through to go from Dallas back home was pretty unfamiliar to me until we got into Illinois. So he kept talking about Buc-ees this and Buc-ees that at the panel discussion. And then when I agreed to drive home with him, he said, we're going to stop at one. And we did, and it was just a very pleasant, very positive surprise. I would urge all of you to try one of their brisket sandwiches. They are really very, very good, especially for something that's made in mass quantities. And the soda dispensers have to be seen to be believed. When it says the convenience store offers 80 soda dispensers, I think maybe they should say it offers 80 soda varieties and maybe 300 dispensers. It's a huge, huge store. And we're thinking that there probably, at the time we were there, there might have been at least 250 or 300 cars around the parking area, both at the pumps and at the store itself. Just an amazing, amazing kind of a thing to watch.
Yeah, I did try to nominate it during the panel session, and the audience very quickly reminded me that they're still private, and other people have encouraged us to get them to go public. So we'll always keep an eye on it. We're already watching for Torchies down there. We should have made a Torchy stop too, Ken. So
now here's your extra credit question. If you come to the roundtable tonight, we'll give you 1,000 roundtable points. I don't know what they're worth or what you can use them for, but we'll give you 1,000 points if you could tell us what product of the 50s had Buc-ee as a mascot. If you can tell us that, then maybe Mark will bring up the jingle that goes with it, and will take us all back to our childhood then at that point, or not all of us, but those of us that are older than dirt, it'll go back to our childhood. Okay.
all right, so here's our urge to come tonight. I really think that the roundtables are a neat place to discover new things and to share ideas. And young King Arthur was right, and so was Merlin. So with that, let's go ahead, and this is Ken and I holding a brisket sandwich at proof that we're not just making this stuff up as we go. That's Ken holding his brisket sandwich at Buc-ees. All right, so with that, unless we've got any big questions in the hopper, we'll go ahead and shut down the recording.
It's been a fairly light session, Mark. So no huge issues or questions. There goes one right off the bat. This is from George telling us that his son has a refillable Buc-ee mug. Okay, so George Mackey's gonna let you take a look at that at some point, Mark. All right, and then we're getting thank yous, and of course we always send those thank yous right back. Shout out to Herb. Herb, if you're going to be around right after the Cherry Festival, right after the 4th, drop me an email. We're going to be in town, and we'd love to meet up with you and your lovely wife Barb and have a drink or two, maybe 2 or 3 even. So give us a shout out if you're going to be around. Okay.
All right. So with that, I think we'll say take care, everybody. And by the way, there are a bunch of Buc-ees near Houston, so George knows of what he speaks. We'll see everybody tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.